Welcome to today's video where we're checking out all that's new on the D-Line extension. We'll be looking at all of the stations and their updates, so stay tuned. This is Tiger Rail Fan. The first stop we're looking at today is Wilshire, Brea. For a sense of location, we're currently walking east on Wilshire Boulevard towards the Wilshire Brea station. We're currently at the base of the arrow, as you can see in this image. We started last month's episode this way as well, and I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't seen this one yet. Also, the sidewalk was very similar to that last episode, so there is not much to report here, unfortunately, as it's all remaining the same. I am curious, though, when they're going to reopen that part of the sidewalk. It's definitely hurting these businesses. It's good news, though, that right after this area, it opens up completely normal with a pedestrian detour sign, which is interesting because it opens up to the regular sidewalk. I do appreciate that these signages are present, though, because in a lot of cases they are not, especially when it comes to American public transit, as I'm sure many of you know. It's also worth noting that the median here is blocked off. It was not in previous days. Here's a look at that, and in the distance you can see the station structure itself. This is going to be where you can enter the station, and it will be the only place you can enter the station, unfortunately. It won't be one of those New York style stations that have multiple entrances. As we walk closer, you'll notice that on the left hand side there's more of a storage area with this construction equipment. But before we look at that, it's also worth noting that the median is paved, so I'm not sure exactly why it's closed, and there is not anything stored inside the median. So it makes me wonder why. But here is a look at the construction happening just outside of the station building. It's mostly the same as last time, but here is a quick uninterrupted look. Not much, of course, happening at that area of the station. I'm curious to see if they're going to put any landscaping there. That would be really nice if they did something like that, as they are doing at the LAX Metro Transit Center. And to see video on that, make sure to check out the channel and the description down below for recommended videos. Although a new part here is the key fobs that they have. They just have openly put their key fob and notice board here, which I find an interesting decision, as the public does not need to know any of this information. But if you want to look, feel free to read and pause. Looking left, it really looks like nothing changed from the station the last time we came here, unfortunately. And with the D-Line extension coming so soon, this makes me worry. But it's a reassuring look to see the elevators over here, which they are tarped up still. But if you look beneath the tarp, like we'll do in just a second, you'll be able to see that it's pretty much complete and ready to go. Although it's interesting for me to see that the concrete area in front of the station is completely gone. I'll go ahead and put up the best clip I can find from the previous video, and it's also worth noting that the sidewalk closure has actually switched, since in today's video we're able to walk on this side of the street closest to the station entrance, opposed to the other video last month where we had to view the station entrance from across the street. It's also worth noting that the escalators unfortunately are in their same condition, where they are not quite done. While the skeleton is still there alongside the handrails, there is not much more beyond that, and it actually looks like we pedaled backwards with the removal of the concrete in front of the station. Most likely something went wrong here, as I'm not sure otherwise why that would happen. I'm going to cover this briefly as well, the density of the surrounding area. It's huge, and there's so much potential for ridership. So I'm so glad that Metro is building a line here. It'll truly serve a lot of people and make that Metro Rapid 720 a lot faster. Anyway, so let's talk about connections. As I was saying, Metro 720 and Local 20 connect here. They run along Wilshire Boulevard, but also you can see that the Dash Fairfax route also runs along here. It's also worth noting that Metro Local 212 also runs north-south to Hollywood and points south to the E line, which that connection will soon be facilitated by the K line. So to figure out new transit projects like that, make sure to like and subscribe for more. And from that side view right there, it looks pretty much the same as the previous video, unfortunately. With most of the foundational structures in, it might be too much to ask for more beyond that before the opening day, as I'm sure this line's going to open towards the end or even maybe past summer, with Metro's generic opening day of 2025. There are no details given beyond that. From behind here, we can see that the concrete is still in place, although back here it looks like they are either rebarring or working to build concrete around this area as well. It may have looked like that wood area was a ditch, and it may have been, and they might have been cleaning it up, but that might have happened in between the filming of these episodes. Looking further towards the back of the station, there's not much except a structure that's probably for staff or it's containing machinery for the subway. Anyways, that's probably it for this station. There is not much happening on these Phase 1 stations, but don't worry, there's a lot more happening at the later stations in this video that actually cause so much chaos on the Metro Rapid routes that run along Wilshire Boulevard. Now that we're heading back, we can see that the sidewalk over here is mostly open and the concreting is done on the right-hand side. So at least that's good to say that the sidewalk's back open. Now here's a look at the density at the surrounding area. Here's also a Metro Rapid 720 heading to downtown LA. Looking at the other side, I'll probably go a lot more briefly than last time. There is not much happening. There are no open holes, and it is really just a storage site for the construction vehicles and workers. It looks pretty much the same as last time with a few dirt hills and a few tractors and lift vehicles. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the next stop along the line, which is going to be Wilshire Fairfax, which has a lot of museums and tourist attractions around it. Let's take a look. Welcome, and we're starting here at the Brea Tar Pits where the station is going to serve. The station is going to serve several museums, including the Brea Tar Pits, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and the Academy of Motion Pictures Museum. Now here's a look at how those museums interact with the station and where the site is. And in my opinion, I think they're all pretty conveniently located around the station entrance. There's also plenty of smaller activities to do, just like the Urban Light and what we're going to see just here on our left, which looks to be a pop-up do-it-yourself art museum, it seems like. I could see people drawing just beyond that fence line, but I'm going to go ahead and give them some privacy as they work on their art. I love little things like that, and I'm glad that there's so much to do around the station, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of tourists on the D-line just because of the station right here. The La Brea Tar Pits, you can see, are just past that fence, and the Los Angeles County Museum of Art is going to be starting where that bridge is. They're recently undergoing an expansion that's going to go on that bridge, and it's going to increase the size of the museum by a significant amount. You can also see that same Dash Fairfax bus, which, as we're talking about it, let's talk about the connectivity of the station. And just like the other ones, it's really connected with, of course, the Metro Rapid 720, Local 20, as well as the Metro 217, which also runs north to Hollywood through a slightly different route. In the distance, you can see below the LA County Museum of Art, which is construction not related to Metro. If you want to see videos that cover the construction of nearby museums or other tourist attractions, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. On the left-hand side, you're going to start to see some construction walls, and you may think those are for the subway, but they are not, as the subway actually has a relatively small and compact construction site, probably due to the surrounding museums that create a smaller lot accessible to Metro. But with a brief look in there, it looks like some of the Metro Phase 3 station expansions, where there is not much happening. Another look over here shows us that not much is happening, but there is a lot of stored equipment and cleaning equipment out of all, which is interesting to see on a construction site that is all a dirt field currently. Same as the previous stop, you can also see as we turn to the right-hand side, there is a median going down Wilshire Boulevard. However, it's not cutting down the lanes of Wilshire by too much. It's just taking the turn lanes. A common thing you'll notice if you're driving along Wilshire is the lack of turn lanes. Here's a brief look at how traffic is flowing on this Sunday. And now in the distance, we can see what we're all looking for in today's episode, the construction area for the Wilshire Fairfax station. Second from the current terminus at Wilshire Western, this stop is going to be the second along the line, and it will be part of the Phase 1 extension, meaning this stop will also open sometime this year, although Metro is yet to give us an estimate on when this will open. At first looks, the station is pretty much the same, with some wood, bathrooms, and other construction equipment being stacked up along the construction site. Also, that same asphalt road was empty, and you can also see here that there is still just a clutter of construction equipment, and those green cones are in the same exact spot as last episode. I'll go ahead and post up a photo of it right here so you can compare it. Feel free to pause the video if you want to take a closer look. But now, besides that, let's go ahead and take a look at the main station. But first, I can see that those street lamps, as you can see, that were unfinished in the previous video, they are completed now, and they are not on at the moment, but it is currently in the afternoon, so I can imagine why. You can also see in the background that there is tarps over the elevators, but you can see that they repaired the last crack in the glass that we saw in the previous episode. So it's good to see that they're working on that. But here's one of those Metro Rapid buses as well, running just beside me. Little did I know, though, that there would be so many detours coming soon. Let's get back to the station, where you can see the station entrance actually has a different wrapping on it. It has a blue brand that is something different than what we've seen at the previous stations, it seems. Looks like it's Carlsey, so feel free to let me know if this is actually a different company than the previous ones, or if I'm just overreacting to a different color to the entrance. Now here's a look at the other side of the station on the western side. Here's an uninterrupted look at this side of the station. As you can see, nothing new is really happening over there, except maybe the introduction of paint supplies at the station entrance. Makes me wonder what they're painting, but it's interesting to see. Anyways, over here you can see the entrance to the Hollywood Academy of Motion Pictures Museum. And on the left-hand side, you can see the Peterson Automotive Museum, which actually stretches an entire block, as you can see here, so it's much larger than you may think it is. One day I'll have to visit this, maybe once the D-Line subway opens. Here's another look at those lights, and now here's an uninterrupted look at the sidewalk construction, which is pretty much the same as the previous episode, besides maybe a deeper hole towards the end. And now we're at the intersection of Wilshire and Fairfax, which this station is named after. This intersection is also where the LA Metro Local 217 boards. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at the next stop along the line, also the last one on Phase 1, which is Wilshire La Cienega. Welcome to Wilshire La Cienega. We're taking a slightly different approach to the station than the last one. As you can see by the image here, we are currently at Wilshire and San Vicente, which is a huge intersection. But even though we're a few blocks away, that does not mean there's no construction. As you can see already, the sidewalk has already been closed for an interesting reason, I'm not sure why, and Wilshire Boulevard has been cut down to one lane, meaning the articulated buses can't go through it, resulting in a detour for the rapid but not the local route. Now, I also enjoy how Metro has been putting up advertisements for the local businesses, as I'm sure with all this construction happening, they have been significantly hurt. And I also enjoy how they put these privacy things on the wall, so that way you don't hear the road noise too much, even though you're walking right next to the traffic. I'm glad Metro hasn't closed the street, but it's also really awkward to see just a bunch of forklifts here, being the possible reason why this section of road and sidewalk has been closed. In the distance, you'll be able to see the station at that second intersection, so not this traffic light, but the next one. But we already have a dump truck on the right-hand side too. I'm not sure why that would be here, since on a Phase 1 station, all of the digging should have been complete, except maybe minor activities to help put that concrete in the rear of the station, or maybe some landscaping, which has been done. So we're gonna get a look at that in just a second. But for now, it's really just being used as storage. It's also worth noting the timeline of the station's opening. This is the last stop on Phase 1, and as you can see by this graphic, it should open in the year 2025, but the next stops along the line in Phase 2 are scheduled to open in 2026 with no month or day elaborated, and the Phase 3 stations should open in 2027, just in time for the LA Olympics. This area has also been blocked off, and it seems like it's being used as a storage facility, but it's possible that some work has or is being worked underground. Here's a look. So it truly does look like Metro is just using it to store some construction objects, as well as set up a staging area for construction. But one of the downsides of having these hallway-like road detours is that there is liquid on the floor, and I cannot guarantee that it's water. So especially with the homelessness population around the extension, I feel like it's important that Metro also makes these open. So I would recommend that the left side of these walls should only be a fence, and that way it doesn't seem so much like a hallway. Most of the fencing here on the right hand side is unnecessary too. As you can see in just a second, it's just blocking off one of these buildings with nothing really stored besides a pile of signs and some abandoned construction parts. So let's go ahead and head to the actual station itself. I'm sure you guys are all as eager as I am to get there. But at first sight, unfortunately, the sidewalk by the station entrance is currently closed, and the lane is also closed, resulting in us having to walk in it, which is also reducing that traffic to one lane at these blocks too, which actually has not been creating bottlenecks, as you can see in the video. But I'm sure on weekdays or busy times of the day, such as the morning or evening, it can get really congested. And it really doesn't look like anything is being stored or done here. But the station entrance is right there, so let's go ahead and get a look at the general structure. Unfortunately, being outside of the station means we can't take a peek through the fencing. So here is a quick uninterrupted look of what we can see from here. But don't you worry, we're gonna get a look at some other angles to look at the inside of the station with a clear view. Anyways, we're now approaching the intersection of Wilshire and La Cienega, which the station is named after. It's located right at the intersection, as you can see here, with convenient transfers to nearby bus routes 720, 20, 105, and the Antelope Valley Express route 785, which board at various places at this intersection. It's also worth noting that sign is saying that Wilshire Boulevard is completely closed west of Crescent Street. So as of this day of filming, make sure you check to make sure that the street is open if you are planning a trip down Wilshire. But here is a look at that other area walking up La Cienega Street, where we're able to see a better look at the station through here. You can see it's actually really just the same as the previous video. Those screens are actually still wrapped up, the one on the right hand side at least, and the escalator is still at the same semi-bare state. So there was no work done on those essential structures, which does worry me a little bit, and it makes me worry that they aren't rushing the project or working overtime on it. It's also worth noting how many construction workers are not at these first phase 1 stations. It's definitely not the priority of Tudor Perini, which is the contractor who is working on the Metro subway. But here's a look at the station. As we saw there, not much new is to report at that station. Even the pillars are still covered in their contractor's covering. So not many new things have happened at the station, unfortunately, but it looks like a lot more work is being done down the line, especially at the Wilshire Rodeo station. Here's a quick look at the density of the surrounding area. And if you watched the previous episodes, you'll know that this stop is also especially dense, just like several of the other stops along the way. But let's take a look at the next one, Century City Constellation. Okay, now you may be wondering why we aren't going to Wilshire Rodeo today, and that's because there is a massive road closure, as you saw earlier in the video, that is preventing any bus access to Beverly Hills. So if you are going to Rodeo Drive or any of those areas on Beverly Hills or Wilshire Boulevard, make sure that you give plenty of time to get there, or don't use public transit, as it will be quite a walk from the detoured stops. For more information, check out lametroalerts.com. But let's go ahead and carry on with this station, which is Century City Constellation, located conveniently next to the Westfield Century City, which is a large mall. It's also home to a huge amount of development, as you can see by the skyscrapers, which are hotels, office structures, and commercial sites. It's also interesting to note that there is a very low population in Century City compared to even smaller surrounding communities, showing its commitment to being a destination and not a home or living space. The sidewalk situation, though, as you can see, is a little bit interesting, and you'll see why in just a second. Now, it looks like it's open ahead, but you're going to have to detour to the right, it looks like, because of the sign. So let's go ahead and do that, but let's see what that results from. It's also important to note that although there's construction on the left-hand side, there is not anything related to the construction of the station over here. As you can see in the distance, there is a lot happening in terms of construction for the skyscrapers. But in the distance, you can see why I would question why this is a detour, because there is trash lined up all over the sidewalk, blocking it for wheelchair accessible people and making it impossible to pass for those people and regular people as well. Here's a look at the hazard. As you can see, all sorts of things are there, including a brick and a tractor at the end here. But once we turn left and look back at the sidewalk itself, it's pretty much open besides that little piece of equipment there that could easily be moved off somewhere else. Or it could be easy just to move the items in the road detour back into the sidewalk, so that way there's a clear path for those using a wheelchair and those who are walking. And even though there was marked signage for a detour, the sidewalk abruptly ends here. So the signage is really awful, and there is an actual sign there that says don't cross the street from there. So it makes you wonder what you're supposed to do. And in reality, you're supposed to go all the way back and cross where you came from, which is going to add over half a mile of walking once you return all the way back. So Century City's pedestrian infrastructure needs some significant work, especially with the station just beyond in that construction site that we can see in this footage. And just like the previous videos that you may have seen, there is not much happening besides a dirt area with a bunch of construction on it. Now, even though the station's construction site is relatively inactive, just like the rest of them, if you'd like to see some of the very active skyscrapers constructions, you can see that in some of the previous videos in either January or February. Now you can see that the sidewalk here is really out of shape too. It's just a huge hole in it, and it's really a problem for those who are needing a wheelchair or who need accessible sidewalks to go across. But in the distance, you can see why the station may exist. There's so much to see here. Just take a look. And there is absolutely skyscrapers galore with all sorts of office buildings and hotels around the area. Now I'm gonna head back to the area that was told to go around because it's actually easier this way. Anyways, let's take a look at the next stop along the line, and hopefully there's some improvement at Westwood, UCLA, Phase 3. And now welcome to the future site of the Westwood UCLA station. To start, I just love how Metro designs the walls of the construction to not only inform people of what's being made, but it also lets them know information about the stops along the line and other information as well, as we saw previously, about supporting local businesses. Anyways, here's a quick graphic showing where we are. We're at the north end of the station, heading south on Veteran Avenue, which the station's located at. Now let's take a look at what we have in store through this open construction door. Look, today we're lucky enough to have it open for a clear view of the station, and it turns out it's really much like the previous episode, unfortunately, with those dirt piles and those construction vehicles being stored on site. But I do love seeing the walls of the station once again. You can see that they're all decorated all the way around, and you'll be able to see a map of UCLA too, a very detailed one, in just a second. Now looking at the density of the area too, this is probably one of the most dense metro stations that is going to be on the new route. And it's actually projected to have the highest ridership out of all LA Metro stations, which is really awesome to see. You can also see it's also connected to UCLA. Obviously with the flags there, however, it's not directly connected, and it's still over half a mile a walk from the nearest classroom building, so you still either need to take a long walk or a bus connection to reach it, which is going to rely on the importance of the Sepulveda line. Let me know if you want to see a video on that. Anyways, here's that map of UCLA, and it's extremely detailed, so I'm just going to let you take an uninterrupted look at it. Over here, I also love how they are advertising the station itself. Hopefully some of the people driving by consider using public transit once this new D-line extension opens, since it'll be absolutely competitive to driving along the corridor. Now, as we continue on the left-hand side, the sidewalk does end, so this will be as far as we can get a good look at the station from the same side of the street. But let's go ahead and take a look. First of all, I noticed that there is a new crane over here, although it's not actively going into the station, but I imagine there would be a hole on the other side that they could be lifting and lowering things into, since the station is still in relatively early stages of construction, where it's normal to have open holes in the floor. Anyways, here's a look at the inside of the construction site from the middle of Wilshire Boulevard. That hole you saw there just a few minutes ago is likely why the crane was there. It was probably lowering and lifting things out of there. But you can also see that this was a gate used for vehicles to enter and exit, although it's definitely been a long time since it's been last used, since there's sandbags and other equipment to block water flow from exiting the station. The same is done around the corner, where we can see sandbags are placed in front of the station perimeter, where this will help prevent water and other dirt or any debris from exiting the station construction area. And again, this station is slated to have the highest ridership out of any metro station, so I'm really excited to see the development of the area, and hopefully the Sepulveda line, which will connect the line directly to UCLA, will be done soon, since that'll be a very useful connection for the area. Over there, you can see a protest seems to be happening. Every single construction video we've done on this channel featuring the D-line, there has been something happening over there, which I think is awesome to see, that people are their freedom to protest. Anyways, let's go ahead and look back at the bus connections in the area. Bus stops are located at several locations at the intersection, one being over there across the block, and you can see in the distance there is a bus layover area for short-turning Route 720 buses, as well as the Metro Local 20, which don't proceed out towards Santa Monica. Over on the right-hand side, you can also see that Big Blue Bus and Culver City Bus both serve this station, and that they'll provide useful connections for places such as the Expo Line South and UCLA up to the north. In just a second, we're going to cross the street right here, where most people will be making their connections for westbound buses. This is where you will connect to go beyond the D-line terminus at VA Medical Center. Let's take a look at some of the routes that they have here, and let's take a look at one of the routes that are about to pass by, the Rapid 720. Overall, I can see why this station is probably one of the most higher ridership stations out of the T-line. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next stop along the line at the VA Medical Center. Welcome to the VA Medical Center, where there is a lot of construction unrelated to the project happening, as you can see here by that ramped area back to Wilshire Boulevard. Now, for some context, Wilshire Boulevard is directly above us, and we are currently crossing beneath Wilshire Boulevard, walking south towards the VA Medical Center and where the station will be. I do enjoy all the decorations that the bridge has and how it honors the military and the groups that they associated with. You'll see that as a theme throughout the bridge, and we'll take a look at a lot of that later. But the actual station site is going to be on the left-hand side, with the VA Medical Center being just in the distance. Let's go ahead and take a look. For this station, we're going to have lots of great vantage points, and we're going to start by walking up right to the station construction site, where you can see not much through there, just some equipment over the dirt area surrounding the station. But let's go ahead and take a look through here, where you can start to see a crane in the background, and you can see some walls that are going to lead to the station's ditch that is going to be where the platform will be located. So with this station, we'll have an exclusive look down at the platform, which we haven't had at any of these previous stations. And now here is an uninterrupted look at that part of the station, which has to be, in my opinion, one of the most fascinating to look at. So one of the major changes that I've seen so far is the addition of a black floor at the bottom of the station there, which is going to serve as a foundation for the track bed as well as the platform. Here's a look at actually what the station will look like, and I love how Metro allows the public to see it. You can see that there is going to be that connecting bridge to Wilshire Boulevard to enable good bus connections, although it doesn't provide good connections to the westbound buses, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. But after that last look, let's go ahead and head back towards the bus boarding area, where I can show you some more of the feature area of the station. But before we do that, let's go ahead and take just one more look at the construction site and of the open trench that we can see here, as we won't have access to it later in the construction process. Now, a fun fact about the station, it is the largest by land size, and we'll get a better look at that in just a second, but it is definitely going to be the largest by size, and I hope it has a lot of ridership to account for that. Anyways, here is the Big Blue bus stop for the Big Blue bus, Route 17. This is going to be the only bus route that directly serves the hospital, stopping in front of it, with the other routes stopping on Wilshire Boulevard up on the bridge, where we'll take a look at in just a second. Now, some of you may have noticed that construction continued on the other side of the street, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at any updates over here. And as you can see, this part of the station is completely walled off, but I found it to be in a similar state as last video, with the exception of that black tile on the floor. Now let's go ahead and continue up the on-ramp or off-ramp here, where you can see there are murals of doctors caring for patients, which I love how they have contributed to the artscape surrounding the hospital and the station. Now, the reason why that bridge is going to be put in place is because of this walk right here. It's quite inefficient to walk all the way up here just to turn around to head to the bus stop, and this can cause several missed bus connections, so I'm glad Metro is doing something about that to help make the walk easier. Now, I'm going to spare you of the rest of the walk here, and let's go ahead and take a look at that Metro Rapid Stop, which also provides an amazing vantage point of the construction site. So let's go ahead and take a look. Here we are. This is the bus stop that serves Big Blue Bus as well as Metro Local 20 and Metro Rapid 720. But the reason why we're here is, of course, a better look at the VA Medical Center construction site. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we can see. Now, while this isn't good for seeing specific changes, it's great to see how everything is being done overall. And here is a quick uninterrupted look. What's most notable is the lack of density in the area. I was surprised that there was not really any skyscrapers or any other businesses for that matter besides the hospital. But in the event that the D line is extended, which is unfortunately not going to happen anytime soon, because the extension to Santa Monica was put down by Metro officials, it will still hopefully serve as a great access point for those accessing the hospital and those who are continuing west on local buses. Like this one right here. which is going to be running to UCLA. Anyways, here are some of my final thoughts. I think this project is going to do so much for the community, and it's going to break down so many transportation barriers and make travel along Wilshire Boulevard a lot faster. While I hope it doesn't get delayed, I'm excited for the future, so make sure to like and subscribe for more. Thank you for watching. And shout out to our channel members. You can subscribe to the membership in the description down below to be featured at the end of every video.